Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of SEOs Getting Coffee. We have an amazing guest with us again. All of our guests are amazing, but Ryan, you're the most amazing today. We have Ryan Jones, who is the marketing manager for a tool that you might already know or might not know called SEOTesting. Now, I'm not going to tell you what it does because it's kind of self-explanatory from the name. And today we're going to be talking about, you can guess, SEO testing. We won't be selling a tool though. Ryan knows that we don't do any selling here, but we are going to be talking a lot about why SEO should be doing SEO testing if they're already doing it and are not aware that they're actually doing it, which I thought was really great from the form that you filled in, and everything else. And as always, we're going to go down rabbit holes this time around SEO testing. So Ryan, do you want to do a quick intro? Have I forgotten anything?
No, I don't think you've forgotten anything. But yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. But I'm Ryan. I'm as a marketing manager at SEO Testing. But I've been, despite how young I get told I look, I've been in marketing for very, very nearly a decade now. So I'm starting to feel quite old. And I've been in it for a fair few years and worked in a wide variety of roles: agency side, freelance, and in house as well. So I think it's fair to say I've seen SEO from all angles.
Brilliant. It's a great experience. I have something similar as well myself, but we can talk about this later. Right. So let's start with your amazing form that you filled in. One of the things that really struck me is when you said, well, SEOs have been doing testing since they started SEO, but they might just not be aware of it. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, since SEO became a thing, I think SEOs have been doing SEO testing. And if we think of how SEO probably used to look, you would look at your Google Analytics or look at some rank tracker somewhere, or even just look at the SERPs in general about some keywords that you're targeting. And all right, let's search for this and see where we're ranking. Oh, okay, we're ranking at position 8. That's not necessarily that good. So what could we do here to move us up a bit? And all right, let's change the meta title. Let's change the meta description. Let's see if we can get a few links in. And then we'll check back in a month or two and we'll see, and we'll search the same keyword. We'll see where it is. Okay, great. Now it's ranking at position 2. And in a lot of people's minds, that's kind of how SEO looked. But in my mind, that's SEO testing. At the end of the day, it's you see something you don't like, you make a change, and then you test to see what happens. It's just the only difference now is there's different metrics that we might be tracking. There's different KPIs that people are tracking. There's more things that we can do to get people like more traffic and things like that. So the process has evolved, but the actual core concept has remained very, very, very much the same.
Okay, excellent. And I mean, when I read that, I thought, okay, right, we have been, like, technically, we have been doing SEO testing like from the very start, and we do it daily. And there is this kind of misconception that SEO testing is this different thing. However, isn't it also about how you structure it? And walk us through the process. It would be brilliant to understand whether there is a bit of a difference between day to day, like you said, you see a keyword, you want to get it up. Not that keywords are what you should be looking at, but that's a different podcast. So you are you want something, you see there's something on your website that you want to improve, you do the change, and then you measure in a few weeks, or depending on the website, whatever. But when you're talking about testing, there is this kind of understanding that you need to start off with things like a hypothesis, and then go straight through all of the kind of bits and pieces to evaluation. Run us through that process. If you were actually going to do a test that is like the proper definition of testing, what are some of the stages and how can SEOs do it?
I mean, testing looks different depending on the types of tests that you use. I mean, if we look at our tool, for instance, just as an example, we have two different test types. We have time-based testing, which is sometimes described as pre-post testing as well, which that would be like the very sort of traditional kind of SEO testing, in the sense that we see something we don't like, we make one change to one page, and then we measure to see what happens. Then as tools, software analysis has kind of evolved, then we've kind of moved into split testing and sometimes even like multivariate testing, which can get really complicated because that's running loads of split tests at the exact same time. But the actual core concept does remain the same, in the sense like you just mentioned there, we have a hypothesis that we want to prove. Like, let's just say, like, oh, okay, we've seen that the click-through rate on this particular blog post is not great. We're going to change the meta title. We're going to put in some like value add keywords, like, I don't know, free guide or something. And we're going to put this in. And we think that will increase the click-through rate by X percentage, whatever we want to say. Then the main goal is to either prove that hypothesis wrong or prove it right, in the sense. And that's the whole reason we run tests. And then the only difference comes down to what we change on the site or how we measure the results. And that's all down to what test that we're running. Like if it's a pre-post test, a time-based test, we'll just make the change. If it's a split test, that gets a little bit more complicated because we need to find control groups and test groups and make sure that they're similar page types. They've all got enough traffic. There's no outliers that are going to mess with the data. We don't want to be like putting this one blog post that has 10,000 clicks all the way up here, and then the rest of the group has like 300 clicks, because that'll mess with the data. There is also some people who like to talk about A/B testing a lot, which that I think the biggest confusion that it comes down to is
the difference,
because I see split testing and A/B testing used interchangeably, which kind of annoys me a little bit, because we can't. Traditional A/B testing, and it's really good in CRO testing, is we test two versions of the same thing to see which performs better. We can't do that with SEO testing, because that would involve things like cloaking and trying to send Google to two different versions of the same page, which we just can't do. So split testing is as close as we can get to A/B testing without then messing with Google and risking penalties.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like on the base of it, we are all testing, and we can all be better at our approach into testing. But it is important to start somewhere. For one of the things that I've seen quite a lot is not starting with kind of a hypothesis. And I did a lot of CRO testing in one of my last jobs. So I did split testing, A/B testing, time-based, all of them. I managed to go through the whole spectrum. And that's like the basics. Whichever methodology you use, you have to start with your hypothesis, and your hypothesis needs to have your main KPI, what you're measuring. Like anything else is like, not as important. Give us some examples of what people can test. So you mentioned a few, but give us your top 5 for SEO testing in particular. What do people go into?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a question of what can't you test, really. But I mean, top 5. If we look at stuff that we've done on our own website, this is going to sound really boring, by the way. But the thing that's worked the best for us has been content refreshes, and I like shout from the rooftops about this on LinkedIn all the time, because people will like, I'll scroll through LinkedIn and people will be like, "Oh, look at this like brand new thing that we've been doing," and I'm like, just do what works. Like for us, what works is content refreshes. So that's like my favorite one is obviously taking a piece of older content, finding where it falls down, comparing to competitors and that kind of thing, refreshing the content and testing to see whether that works. And for almost every single content refresh test that we've done on our own website has yielded an increase in clicks, which is why we continue to do it to this day and ignore everything else about like these brand new things that might not work. But like, one of my favorite examples for any kind of SEO testing is always e-commerce sites, purely because there's usually loads of pages to test on. There's loads of similar page types as well, which means split testing can be like a great way for e-commerce sites to get more traffic. And for e-commerce sites, I mean, you can test almost anything. Like it can be from the smallest thing of like, can we move this product description to the top of the page from the bottom of the page and that kind of thing? Or we can test like a brand new product page, which I actually did in a previous job. Like it's a different topic, but like the funny story of how I got hired at SEOTesting was I was previously a customer of the tool and like was shouting about how good they were on Twitter because I worked for an e-commerce site. So we were like doing loads of tests and we ended up changing our product pages like absolutely completely. It looked nothing like what they did before, and that's purely because we did a small scale test and that worked. You can test anything from like completely brand new websites as well. People don't necessarily think that you can test with that as well, and you kind of can. So like even like brand new page types, adding, or I mean, you can't really add EEAT, but like changing content on your site to better show the experience and the expertise that you've got and that kind of things. That's always a good one to test. And even like link building campaigns as well. I mean, it's one of these ones in SEO that's going to be talked about forever. I think is like how important backlinks still are, and will they diminish in value and that kind of thing. Well, you can test that as well. If we're going to do like an outreach campaign to this blog post that we've got and it's ranking here and it's got this much traffic, we'll build some backlinks to it and then we'll see what happens to that page once these backlinks have been built. So that's always a good test as well. I don't know whether that was 5, by the way. I got a bit carried away, but
right.
Sorry to jump in there, Ryan. I think that's one of the things that I'm kind of most interested in really with testing is that, and also something that I'm really cautious about, I guess, when like working with clients and things, is that because obviously you've got this crossover then with conversion rate optimization as well, and especially with like e-commerce websites that you say, but essentially my reservations and caution, I guess, is that like, let's say you are testing 2 completely different product pages, but let's say product page A, and they're completely different, right? Let's say they're completely different layout, completely different. The problem I have a lot of the time is that, well, actually, what's the one element that's making that change or making that result? So I often try to kind of go simpler and like I try to avoid that complete kind of like, you know, that difference. I try to make like very small changes. So if you're ever doing a test and it's like, right, okay, we're literally just going to change the color of the add to cart button. Everything else is the same, but we're just going to look at the color, because then you're doing these gradual changes that's making your page better in terms of conversion rate optimization over time, right? Rather than going, right, here's a completely different page, let's test that. Great, it performs better, but then but you don't actually know which element is performing better, right? So I guess there's not really a question there. I guess it's more of just like an observation of like, you know.
I know where you're going with it though. Like I mean, it is true. I mean, we've said it in blog posts, and I think I've said it on like previous podcasts and things like that. I mean, best practice is always to know what you're testing, in the sense like, don't just change random shit and like see what happens, because and that's where you mentioned as well in like in terms of having a hypothesis and things. But on the flip side of that is, and this is where e-commerce sites can become really useful, is because they are good candidates for multivariate tests, which will have a group, and you still have to have like a load of pages and things like that, and they all have to have similar traffic, but providing you fit that mold, we'll have a group of pages that stay exactly the same. Then we'll have a group of pages where we're just changing one thing, and then we'll have a group of changes that we're just changing another thing. So we're doing loads of single changes, but in like grouped into one big test. We can then see, we'll be able to then like pull out the data and we say, okay, well, this test worked because we've seen these results, and this one worked. This one didn't work as quite so well, so we can take that out. We'll leave that the same. This one worked. We'll use that, and then you can use that to build, for example, like a new product page over time, because you can use those test results to say this worked, this worked, this worked. These didn't work. Let's move away from that, and let's do it that way. So it's kind of the same process. It's like multivariate testing is a way of doing that, in terms of like it takes a lot longer to set up, but you can do it much more quickly.
Yeah, it scales better.
Yeah, or you can achieve the same results by doing exactly what you were saying, Sean, of like, we'll just change this, and then we'll run another test, and we'll just change this. It's the same results that you get.
And like you say, is that you need the kind of, you need the data pool, right? You need the traffic as well. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, what I would kind of bring up and discuss is that, like, it's all well and good when you're like a massive website and you're getting loads of traffic and you've got the funds and the availability and the resource to be able to kind of run some SEO testing. But actually, on a budget, what do you recommend on a budget? So let's just say you've got a small client who wants to run some SEO testing or some conversion rate optimization testing on their pages. What is like the most accessible thing that they can do to do some testing?
Yeah, well, the beauty of SEO testing is that you can actually do it for free. It's just a bigger time cost that then has to happen, and that's the conversation that you need to have. But like, you can do SEO testing and even pair that with like CRO testing if you've got GA4, and which everyone should have. But again, that's a different conversation for another time. But you can use like Google Search Console. We can say, okay, well, what's the things that we've been doing that we know has kind of worked over time. So we can say, like, I'm just pulling like random examples out, but we can say, okay, well, content refreshes still work for us. We can say that, like, okay, we know that if we add useful videos to the top of blog posts, that works for us as well. We can do that for free using Google Search Console. We can export the data for the pages that we want to test. We can average that data out and pull it into, I mean, we do clicks per day. You don't have to do it like that. That's just the way we average it out. We'll average out a clicks per day model. And then we'll make a change that we want to make based on our hypothesis. We'll wait for that change to take effect, and then we'll export the data again. I mean, you can't do like split testing really with GA4. It takes a whole lot of time and a whole lot of expertise. But pre-post testing and time-based testing is absolutely like easy to do with GA4 with GSC. It just takes a lot of time. But you can do exactly the same thing, make the change, and then export the data again, and then you can build comparison dashboards and all that thing, and you can say, okay, well, we can see that like average out clicks per day before the change, we were getting, 10 clicks per day on average. We made this change and now we're getting 30 clicks per day on average. And we can say that test was a result, a positive result. And then if you really want to like drill down into like maths, then you can go in and do like statistical significance and all that, or you can just throw the numbers into like a statistical significance calculator, which is probably the easiest thing to do. And then we can say, okay, now this test is also statistically significant. The only things like to kind of caveat is like the advice of like, don't make changes during core updates, because it's going to be impossible to know whether that was your change or the update doing kind of things like that.
Which is really hard because you never know when an update is coming.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, we've had it as well where we've been running. I think the last core update we actually had 8 tests running at the same time, which we just then had to kind of just be like, well, I mean, these are kind of out the window now, because there's no way we're going to, like, even if we saw like this massive spike, like we don't, like, that could be our change, sure, or it could be Google like really liking something that we've done and boosting us up that way. So
yeah, this is the thing that I found as well. It's really difficult to know when is the right time to do a test for Google updates, but also thinking about like seasonality, for example, or anything external. You know, you could have something trending on Google Trends and messing up your data completely, because that's what's actually making a difference and not the change that
it's
you've
like
done.
a great example of that is that we have this, it's a massive bugbear for our team, but we for whatever reason we've got a piece of content on our website which is like how to clear your Instagram cache, right? It was where we were doing some social media content and whatnot. Anyway, when Instagram goes down, which it does every couple of years, right, that piece of content just goes crazy, right? So you get like a ridiculous amount of impressions and it all drops because it's so obviously sudden, and then it's gone because everyone's like, oh, Instagram's down. How do I clear my cache? Oh, it's not the cache. It's actually Instagram's gone down, you know, so it's a bigger issue. So
we have exactly the same thing. We have a piece of content on our site all about what happens if, or like GSC isn't pulling data through. So like the moment GSC isn't pulling any data through for like, and it's been like a week or if even just like a few days, the moment like GSC has stopped showing data, people start Googling that. Our blog post is like at the top.
Yeah.
I think we had like, I mean, our site averages like a few hundred clicks per day, nothing like absolutely major. I think I looked at GSC like one week and we had like 10,000 clicks or something absolutely ridiculous because like, and we can say like, because I mean, and I think that page was actually included in a group test at the same time. So, or like a split test or something. And we're like, well, can't use that now. So that's out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever had, you know, I'm always really interested in when you get surprised with testing. I used to so we had this pricing page in one of my last companies, and it had just a form on it, and it was awful. And I must have ran, I don't know, 5 tests against this control, and every time this awful form won. Every single time. It took me 6 tests to actually get to the point where this page that I thought was actually the worst page in the world wasn't actually winning against any of the new kind of newcomers. Have you ever had that, like when you had a hypothesis and you proved yourself like completely wrong, or it took you a long time?
Yeah, I mean, an interesting one for us. This isn't one that I was working at SEO testing at the time, but like my previous role, the one that really surprised me was, I mean, we were doing a load of updates to like we'd migrated CMS and everything like that to try and make everything easier. And one of the things that came with this migration was, oh, okay, now we can implement like one-click checkout with like Google Pay and Apple Pay and things like that. And we're like, fucking like brilliant! Like this is going to make buying so much easier. So we, I mean, we started with we just tested it small scale first. So we were like, let's just put this one-click checkout on these product pages, and we'll just see what happens. And then obviously, we expect this like to be absolutely positive because people will just be able to buy in one click, and we'll roll it out site wide. And we watched to see what happened, and like just no one was it was, if anything, it was just negligible. Like it didn't add any value at all. And we even like looked at things like, and no one was using this like one-click checkout that we put on, and we're like, this makes no sense to me. But like in my mind, I love it because it's easy for me. What we didn't take into account was the user base for these particular people who were buying stuff. They still like didn't necessarily trust online shopping like that much. They were like, I want to add my card details. I don't like it, or they didn't have Apple Pay and things like that. So like what actually worked well for us was getting rid of one-click checkout entirely, and was like, you need to add your card details.
But that's the key though, is that like these innovative things that like come in, that they're new and fresh, like Apple Pay, Google Pay, and all these types of things, is they're now pretty standard, right? And people kind of, people in general tend to use them. Like even my mum would use them, or like, so it's, and that's the thing. And like even myself, like
I love that even my mom.
Yeah,
it's
but that's the
even
thing, is
mom.
that we have to remember that, like, a lot of people, anytime there's something new, so you're always a bit skeptical at first, or a lot of us might be a bit more like, oh, hang on. And it's true, maybe because we grew up, with online scammers and whatnot, and being careful what pop-ups you click on, or at least I did anyway. And but the situation is that like I'm always really kind of like, well, what's this new thing? Hang on, I'm not going to use that. No, I'm stuck in my ways, right? And I don't like the change. So it's like it takes a while to warm up to something. Go, oh, actually, no, that's really convenient. Like I didn't have Apple Pay on my phone until recently, because I was like, I'm not putting cards on my phone. I'm not putting this. It's like, no, what about blah blah blah. And just like, but actually, recently I was like, I put a card on there. I was like, yeah, that's pretty convenient, actually. It's,
yeah,
it's
yeah, but it's interesting because it does lower like the cognitive load. And like loads of stuff, particularly now and I have questions about LLMs, obviously everybody needs to talk about that. It is all about like lowering cognitive loads. What people forget that when you're doing that, you have to start from your audience first. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's the exact point I was going to make as well.
That's the crux of it. If you don't know your audience, how are you gonna, just presuming that something will work because it works somewhere else? I've seen this so many times in SaaS. Everybody wants a free trial. Everybody wants the free trial. And then you have a tool that is complicated because it has to be complicated, because there's no, like not everybody can be an out of the box software. And you put a free trial on your website and you tank your revenue completely, nobody's converting, because it's not the entry point for your audience. It's not that's not what they're expecting. And even if they do sign up for that free trial, they're not going to understand the product. So what is what's the point of it? I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, the whole key, and this was like when I first started doing like more SEO tests on like a regular basis, was I think the biggest mistake I was making is I was designing hypotheses based on like me and like my thing. So like, and this is the exact thing, is I was like, well, one click checkout is going to be amazing for me because I use this stuff all the time, and I just completely ignored the fact that like the people who are actually buying from us like don't like it, and I was like, that's like the biggest fail. But it's that is always
I put my hands up as well. That pricing page, I was determined to change
it. But I think that's it. It's like, you know, we get used to how things should be. So once there's like a general kind of, you know, archetype in place of how it's like, you go to the supermarket and you're expecting to have your trolley, you're doing the weekly show, you're expecting to have your trolley, get all the stuff in the trolley, and you're expecting to go to the cashier, put your stuff on the belt, and then that's how you pay, right? And you're expecting that. But then all of a sudden you do the same thing, and then, oh, hang on a minute, there's no cashiers left, it's all machines, and I've got to scan my own stuff. All of a sudden that's like, whoa, this has changed. This is not how it's meant to be. And the same thing with websites is that if somebody comes in and goes, right, oh, this is our product page, and people are like, hang on a minute, this isn't how a product page generally looks, because, you know, generally product pages these days, when you're purchasing, they tend to look a certain way, and people are used to that. They're like, oh, here's the add to cart button, and they can get around. So it's like, I always love it when you see someone who's trying to do something, and it's usually high fashion brands who have like really creative agencies, and they tend to overcomplicate things. And it's just like, right, how do I add to cart? Like, where's the button? Oh, it's this little plus, this design little plus symbol here.
Like, oh, you have to click on this hamburger menu to get to your cart. And, like,
and you know, and I think that's the thing, is that you have to, like, you can do innovative things, but I think you do have to kind of mix that with making sure that like you introduce people to it gradually.
Yeah, and you understand it comes from the audience and it doesn't come
because
from
it's too much of a shock when it's completely different and new. It's like, oh, I don't like this website, especially if you're a new brand and you're trying to, like, you know, kind of develop an audience. So it's like, yeah, it's important. Like, so coming back to the testing, I think that's what I mean. Is like, I know it's obviously a mix of SEO and CRO testing there, but I think it's true. Like it doesn't necessarily stop innovation, I don't think, but I think that you do need to be a bit more cautious with how you introduce things.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as how we run things. Like one of our, like, it's essentially like for a long time, our marketing strategy was to find what works and then just double down on it. And like, we weren't doing anything massively complicated. We do a few tests and we can say that, like, oh, okay, this stuff works, so we're going to continue doing this until we see like diminished returns, and then we'll start some new tests again. And that's not to say that we weren't like then doing some other tests as well on like new ideas that we'd have, but we were doing those on like a really small scale, and then if it worked, we'd start to scale it up and like that. But we weren't doing anything like massively complicated. We weren't doing like we migrated to a new CMS. I don't know when it was, but like not too long ago. But we actually kept the design of the website like exactly the same. We were like, we don't need to change it because we know that this works. Like, we have our blog, and we have, the only thing we added was some like proper like feature pages and things like that. But we didn't like change the design of the site. We're like, people need to know what to expect when they get to our website, whether they land on a blog post or they land through the homepage or they click us through social media or anything like that. They need to know what to expect. They need to know like what their problems are. Okay, where do I go on this website to find a solution to that problem? Do I need to go to the blog? Do I need to find a feature? Do I need to speak to someone? So do I need to fill in like the live chat or fill in a support case and things like that? So we just made that as like simple as possible. And even though we changed the entire CMS, nothing else on the website changed. And that's why like our CMS migration went really well.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I'm mindful of time, and I have to ask about AI. I mean, obviously, it's not AI, it's LLMs, and it's a pet peeve. But what are you doing on that side? Have LLMs changed your workflow at all in terms of like what you can do when it comes to SEO testing? Have you seen any use cases or anything that you might want to share? Or is it just same old, and it's not really helping?
I mean, it's not necessarily same old. Like, at the end of the day, people are using LLMs more and more, and we're seeing it now. Like, we have a thing on our site where if someone fills in the form for a free trial, we just ask them where they first heard about us, and like, we are seeing more and more people are like, oh, I heard about you through ChatGPT, and I heard about you through Perplexity and Gemini and things like that. So we know it's going to change, and that's why like we're making changes to our tools so people can do like actual LLM tests, and like, so like it will work in exactly, and this is not to be promotional at all, just telling you what we're doing. It's like, it will work in the same way. It's just, does this change lead to more traffic from LLMs? And that's exactly what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, this is what people are going to, they might not necessarily care about it to the same extent that they care about Google, because at the end of the day, even for us as well, Google is still like our main source of traffic and revenue and all that kind of stuff. But it's going to become more important because people are going to use LLMs more and more. And then when like AI mode becomes the actual standard, like I don't believe a word Google say when they say AI mode is just going to be a tab that people can click. It's not. They are lying.
Maybe for a bit.
Yeah, it will become the norm for a bit, and then they'll like, the moment they found a way to monetize it to the same extent that they've monetized the actual SERP page, AI mode will become standard. Like, we know that's going to happen. And that's then the point, that's why like LLM marketing has become like such a buzzword and stuff like that, is because we know that that's going to happen. So yeah, we are, it's not necessarily changed my workflow too much, in the sense that I'm still doing very much the same things that I was doing. We're still finding what works and doubling down on it. It's just, if it works then to get us more traffic from LLMs, then it works even better.
And it's interesting because it's really difficult when you're talking about LLM traffic and SEO testing, because the responses are always different. And also, like, the personalization is, I know that like Google personalizes if you're logged into Gmail and all of those things. However, the level of personalization that you have in an LLM, and the fact that most people will log in, even if it's offered, some of them don't even offer you to try it out before you log in, or they cut it, like ChatGPT, you can do just a few things with it if you're not logged in. So everybody by default logs in. Maybe this is an assumption, but I presume everybody does. So it's so difficult to actually, like, know that your test is working, because it's so beholden to what the LLM decided to answer that time, as opposed to 3 minutes ago.
Yep.
And your personal embeddings, your personal kind of what it knows about you as a person. So
yeah, I mean, personalization is going to be the key, and this is why I think at the end of the day, like, I don't care like what tools pop out of like into existence to be like, we can measure LLM traffic. Like, I don't understand. Maybe I just don't understand it enough to say that. Like, but to me personally, as like a personal anecdote is, I recently upgraded to the iPhone 16 with like the Apple Intelligence thing, which is like mixed in with ChatGPT and everything. Like, I'm not logged in to ChatGPT on that device at all. I don't have it on my phone, but I have the Apple Intelligence, which uses ChatGPT. But that has got to be storing information on that phone about the things that I ask, so it can then give me better answers in the future. So like, even if I'm not logged in, like, personalization is going to play such a key part, which I think it is just going to be very granular as to like, does this change lead to more traffic from LLMs? Like, yes or no? Like, that's a very, that's like
on the whole.
Yeah, that's
on the whole, it's like we know that it's faulty, but it's the best that we can do.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that is like the binary question, is like, does this change that I make lead to more traffic from LLMs? Yes, no. That is the stuff that we can calculate. Like, we know that. Are we going to be able to like get to a point where we're like, oh, okay, can we make this change and that leads to more like people searching on ChatGPT for this particular thing? I don't think we'll ever be able to calculate that. So I think it will remain very, very binary in that sense.
Yeah. All right. We have come to the point of the episode. I'd love to speak more, and we hopefully will, Ryan. Hopefully I'll see you. Are you coming down for Brighton SEO?
Yes, that is the plan. Yes, I'll be there.
We can continue the conversation there, because I'm very intrigued. As somebody who comes from the CRO side of things, I've always been like, oh, SEO testing, is it a thing? So this was really useful. But at this point, we would like to ask you to put something into our room 404. Our room 404 is a place where you can banish anything that has really gotten on your nerves. It could be digital marketing related. It could be something else. We're not bothered. All we want is to lighten the load for you and banish something into a room 404. What's your banishment going to be?
Oh, it's multiple things combined into one, and it goes as to what we just spoke about. But AEO, AIO, SXO, GEO, all of these acronyms that people are starting to use. Like, I get that they're buzzwords and people are searching them more and more because they see them on LinkedIn and they think this is the brand new thing that everyone needs to do. But in my opinion, and I think it's shared by a lot of people, is at the end of the day, it is still just SEO. It's just like my opinion on the whole thing is like people might search on different things. They might still use Google. They might search on ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever. At the end of the day, that means it's a search engine. That is its core. You're using it to find information or find products or find things. And it doesn't mean the acronym has to change. Like the medium might change and the things that we do might change, but the core process will be exactly the same. So any acronym that isn't SEO can be banished.
Oh, you see, this is it. I tend to agree with you. But then, to be fair, I'm like even worse. Forever, I wanted to banish any of the channels as well. I wanted it to all be digital marketing because it needs to kind of work together. So if it was up to me, we'd all be digital marketers. So yeah, but then, I never did specialize. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us. It's been a brilliant discussion. Where can people find you?
Oh, where can people not find me? LinkedIn, Blue Sky, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Threads, TikTok. You can generally find me if you search.
What's the primary one? Everybody
the primary
has
one that I'm most active on is LinkedIn. So yeah, you just have to make sure not to confuse me with the other Ryan Jones who lives in the States and works at Razorfish. That's where people get confused. But yeah, you could, if you search Ryan Jones on LinkedIn, you can absolutely find me. But it's linkedin.com/Ryan Jones SEO.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ryan.
For anybody listening, please join the conversation. Drop us a comment. Get in touch with Ryan. Subscribe, listen, all of those lovely marketing things that we encourage people to do.
Share as well. Share it. That's the biggest one for the algorithm. Share it.
I completely forgot. It's also comment. The comments are really good because it kind of shows engagement. So
yeah, ask a question. That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good one.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. And
thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Ryan.
guys.
See you later.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.